Black magic of the Atlantans. The black magicians of the Amorc school in California claim that black magic doesn't exist, that it's just superstition. They argue that hateful and malicious thoughts emitted by evil minds disintegrate because the cosmic is pure goodness and therefore cannot serve as an instrument of evil forces. The concept of these black magicians at Amorc is meant to justify their dark teachings and give them the appearance of pure white magic. The cosmic encompasses all of infinity, and in the cosmos, there is everything. As above, so below. If a malicious thought were to disintegrate instantly, why doesn't a bullet disintegrate in space? Why does the cosmic serve as an instrument for the bullet that is meant to kill a human being, possibly an elderly person or a child? If the concept of the black magicians at Amorc were true, the bullet should disintegrate instantly. They might argue that the bullet is a physical object while a thought is not, but that's not a valid argument because a thought is also a form of matter, as nothing can exist, not even God, without the assistance of matter. Furthermore, every atom has a sevenfold constitution. For example, a bullet is composed of physical, etheric, astral, mental, causal, conscientious, and divine atoms, a nucleus of atomic consciousness charged with the waves of hatred from the one who fired it. Why doesn't it disintegrate? Why does the cosmic serve as an instrument for it? Why does the cosmic serve as an instrument for the destructive waves of an atomic bomb? Are mental waves inferior to the radioactive waves of uranium atoms? The concept of the black magicians at Amorc is only meant to conceal their crimes and deceive the unsuspecting. They are merely trying to justify themselves as white magicians. Most of the dark teachings and knowledge of the Amorc school come from Atlantis. In the monographs of the 9th grade, they call assumption a magical key to control the mind and will of others. This procedure is pure black magic. The process involves sitting or lying comfortably, closing your eyes, focusing your mind on the distant victim, identifying with them, and changing your personality to match theirs, even if they are of the opposite sex. This change is done through imagination, feeling like you are the victim's personality and acting exactly as you wish them to act. This is pure black magic because no one has the right to coerce another's mind. We must respect the free will of others. All the openings of the black convocations in the 9th grade of Amorc are exactly like those of the black magic temples of Atlantis in deep darkness. The Black Master begins their convocations with a sinister prayer that goes like this: Beloved veiled prophets, we gather to commune under the protection of the veil of darkness. May our thoughts and actions bear witness to our sacred obligations and traditions consecrated by time. This convocation is now secret. The light in the Shekinah will now be extinguished. Instruct a frater or soror to extinguish the candle. The beloved veiled prophets are black magicians who wear brown or red robes and partly cover their faces with hoods. Black magicians commune under the veil of darkness, loving the shadows. They want nothing to do with the light. All these practices come from the Atlantis continent. The closing words spoken by the dark 9th grade master of Amorc are as follows: Rise, beloved prophets, and let us depart with the blessing of the sign of the cross and the protection of the veil of darkness. This convocation has ended. The acting master leaves first, and the veiled dark prophets, protected by the shadows, withdraw into the night. Schools of black magic provide their affiliates with numerous absurd practices to develop hidden powers. These external practices serve only to break the membranes of the mental body and turn the disciple into a true black magician. In the 9th grade monograph number 38, you can find the following practice: take a small, sturdy glass jar with a cork stopper. The jar can hold 4 to 6 ounces. Take an ordinary sewing needle and insert it about a centimeter into the cork so that about 4 centimeters of the needle stick out of the cork. Take a small piece of paper, just over 7 centimeters long by 1 centimeter wide, fold it in half in the shape of a V. Any medium strength paper of any color will do. Take this piece of paper and place it upside down on the needle in the shape of the letter A, hanging it from the tip of the needle so that it stays centered in the fold of the paper. If the paper is folded evenly, it will balance on the needle with both tips pointing outward like the letter A. Place the jar with the piece of paper on the needle in the center of the table, about a meter away from your body. while you sit quietly in a chair. Make sure there are no open windows in the room where the wind could move the paper, and prevent your breath from moving it as well. Now, concentrate on the paper and exercise your will to move the paper. If the balance is even on the needle, it will move easily, and you should make it rotate in one direction, then make it stop and rotate in the opposite direction. Practice for about 10 minutes on each action, concentrating on the paper and moving it at your will. Soon, you will discover that there is a driving force emanating from you towards the paper. This will prove what we have been saying and what we will explain in the next monographs, that the will and the psychic area can be used to direct the force inside or outside the body. Fraternally, the master of your class. These teachings come from a temple of black magic in Atlantis called the Altar of Mathra, located in the Azores Islands, on the Pico Mountain. This temple still exists in the astral plane. In the past, one would reach this temple in a 7-day journey, and at the end of each daily journey, there would be a grand feast. In this temple, there is a hall called the Hall of Will, where countless exercises similar to those of Amorc in California are practiced. The effort that the disciple puts into these absurd practices results in the breaking of the delicate membranes of the mental body. Do not desire powers, dear reader, they arise as the fruit of the intimate when our soul has been purified. The mental force we foolishly use to move a piece of paper should be used to master carnal passions, eliminate hatred, control speech, overcome selfishness, envy, and more. Purify yourself, and powers will be bestowed upon you through successive purifications. Powers are the flowers of the soul and fruits of the intimate. The powers of a Mahatma are the result of millennia of purifications. The Gnostic disciple receives various powers from the White Lodge through initiatory trials. These powers are received by the soul and grasped by the intimate because the intimate is the true self within us. When a Gnostic desires, for example, that a distant friend comes to them, they pray to their intimate as follows: Father, bring Mr. So-and-so to me, but not my will, but yours be done. If the intimate considers the request just, it performs the miracle, which is a theurgic work, and the distant friend arrives. But if the intimate deems the request unjust, it does not grant the soul's request. This is pure white magic. The black magician, on the other hand, uses their so-called assumption or the force of will without any consideration for the intimate's will. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, says the Gnostic, because the Gnostic only does the will of the intimate, both on earth and in the higher planes of consciousness. The Gnostic places all their desires in the hands of the intimate. By mastering anger and acquiring serenity, we prepare our pituitary and pineal glands for clairvoyance. By always speaking words of love and truth, we prepare to awaken the inner ear. Sexual magic, daily vocalization, and continuous purification lead us to the heights of high initiation. Do not desire powers. This doesn't mean Gnostics take a passive attitude like the Theosophists. Instead, we must prepare ourselves by practicing sexual magic daily while purifying ourselves. The Gnostic transmutes their sexual secretions and patiently awaits to be worthy of receiving the hidden powers that blossom like flowers of the soul only after purification. The Gnostic does not desire powers, they prepare themselves to receive them. The Gnostic's preparation involves purification and daily practice of sexual magic. Black magicians have similar tests in their temples as white magicians do. Sharenzi allows the supposed candidate to be insulted, scolded, humiliated, and even physically abused during their initiation trials. In the 9th grade monograph number 5 of Amorc, after the disciple has passed the 4 trials of earth, fire, water, and air in a black magic temple, they receive a parchment that reads as follows: Peace, greetings from the temple master, by decree of the high priest, through the guardians who have served and watched over you. In acknowledgement of your perseverance, faith, and desire, as demonstrated in the outer chambers, you are permitted to enter the next sanctum, awaiting preparation for admission within the Holy of Holies after 3 days of sanctification and purification. Your name shall be 777, your letter, R, your salutation, Aum, your book shall be that with the letter M, your jewel shall be green jasper in the shape of a scarab, and your time shall be 9. Rest in patience and await the hour, the number, and the sign. This is pure and legitimate black magic. These trials are taken by the disciple in an astral plane black magic temple. When a Gnostic disciple requests the 4 trials of earth, fire, water, and air from the masters in the astral, the masters release them one at a time, as described in our book The Perfect Matrimony or The Door to Enter into Initiation. There is usually an interval of several days between each trial, and the disciple must have triumphed in the previous trial to move on to the next. Each triumph is celebrated in the children's hall with ineffable music and celebrations. Each of the 4 trials has its own special celebration. It is called the children's hall because the masters receive the disciple in the form of children to say, "Except you become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven." There are no letters R, number 777, no green jasper, no hours or signs. This is pure black magic from Atlantis. The only thing given to the Gnostic disciple when requested is the small Kila cloak. After passing the air trial, the black magician receives a jewel with 2 intertwined rings, which represents their triumph. The white magician receives a symbolic ring that represents the ray to which they belong. The black magician's ring serves as a reminder that they were hanging over an abyss held by 2 rings. The temple masters wear white, the veiled prophets wear black veils, the stylists wear grey stoles, the scribes wear blue, the astrologers wear blue and white, the musicians wear yellow, and the doctors wear brown. The temple remains in darkness. The 9th grade disciple is admonished with these words: "The living soul that crosses this dreadful path alone without hesitation or timidity, after purification through earth, fire, water, and air, shall be illuminated by glorious mysteries." Immediately after, the black disciple proceeds among the guardians of death. In the fire trial, a guardian says to the black disciple, "If you wish to reach the master, you must pass through this door. To reach this door, you must pass through this hall. To cross this hall, you must step on the iron of fire. Come if you seek the master." The disciple says, "Forward, forward, forward," and, full of courage, passes through the fire. In the water trial, a black guardian says, "If you wish to see the master and enter the sacred temple, you must reach this door and pass through it. To cross this door, you must pass through the lake." All of the above pertains to the 9th grade of the Amorc fraternity. All of this is pure and legitimate black magic. The disciples of the White Lodge, as mentioned, only celebrate their feast in the children's hall after each successful trial. In the White Lodge, the 4 trials are meant to examine the moral qualities of the white disciple. In the fire trial, mobs of enemies attack the disciple, insulting them, and if instead of responding with insults, the disciple responds with love, they succeed in the trial, and if they remain serene, they pass through the fire without getting burned. As you can see, in the fire trial, the disciple must even kiss the whip of the executioner to succeed in the trial. On the other hand, in the black magician's fire trial, they simply have to pass through the fire, with no moral preparation required. In the Gnostic water trial, the disciple's altruism and philanthropy are tested. In the air trial, the test is about the disciple's ability to resist great adversity and their detachment from material possessions. It's logical that a disciple who commits suicide because they lost their fortune cannot pass the air trial. Simply by being unable to withstand a failure morally, it's clear that they cannot pass the air trial. Those who succumb to life's major inconveniences fail the earth trial. Many people have faced these trials in the course of their daily struggles for their daily bread. Sometimes, in life itself, there have been men and women who have devised a grand plan for the benefit of humanity and have fulfilled it despite all the setbacks, sorrows, and tears. These men and women have undergone the 4 trials in flesh and blood. We have the typical case of Lenin, who freed a people from slavery. Lenin is truly a master of greater mysteries, as is Karl Marx. The 4 tests of earth, fire, water, and air are simply meant to examine the disciple's morality. All our moral defects and flaws are precisely the negative aspect of the 4 elements of nature, in order for us to become masters of it. In the White Lodge, these 4 tests are accompanied by a rigorous verbal examination to determine the extent of the disciple's purifications. All of this takes place on the astral plane, and a prepared disciple, meaning one with spiritual maturity, brings back memories to the physical plane, much like if they had dreamt it. In the Black Lodge, it's only about having the courage of a brutal male to triumph in the tests. The monographs of the 9th grade of Amorc in California overwhelmingly demonstrate the dark character of the institution. Amorc's officials can prepare their weapons against the author of this work, because the Hierophant Aun Weor is not afraid of them. The time has come to unmask those responsible for the failure of human evolution, and Aun Weor only follows the dictates of the Venerable White Lodge. The silent pistol is invented in Amorc's laboratories, and we know very well that you teach your advanced disciples how to assemble it. How can a white magician invent destructive weapons? Evil can only come from evil. You are violating one of God's precepts, which says, "Thou shalt not kill." I, Aun Weor, am not afraid of that silent pistol because I am willing to ascend to the gallows in the name of truth. After this brief digression, let's return to the topic of our current chapter. The 6th monograph of the 9th grade tells us that after their gloomy disciples have passed their 4 tests triumphantly, they supposedly have the right to receive sacred initiation. Let's see the following paragraph from page 3 of the 6th monograph of the 9th grade now. In this way, I became aware that 2 intertwined rings were to be my sign, therefore, 2 intertwined circles resembling 2 links of a chain are my sign, and will also be your sign in this initiation. As soon as I understood this, I was asked to sign my name and leave the fingerprint of my thumb on a special paper attached to a piece of wood, along with others also attached. Then I was ordered to go to the door, push a small sliding cover, and give my letter and number. This smells like a police office, but never like a temple of white initiation. In no temple of white initiation is a personal name signed, nor is anyone listed. In the White Lodges and in the karmic records, the human being is recorded with the name of their inner self and not with profane names. Many of Chirenza's students, upon joining his spiritual university, lose their profane name, and those who achieve the anagarikado are given an arbitrary name in place of their own as a reward for their accomplishment. In their sanctum, they exclaim I, E, I, E, I, in gratitude to the left-handed adepts. The black magicians of Amorc give their naive disciples the name of a demon in the 3rd-degree ritual, and for this, the disciple writes on various slips of paper the names provided to them. By picking a slip with a name, they continue to be associated with it on the astral plane. The names are as follows: Adjutor, Affectator, Amorifier, Benefactor, Cognitor, Divinator, Justific, Pensator. Each of these names belongs to a demon who is the head of a legion, and the naive disciple is placed under the command of the randomly chosen name. Amorc's officials make their disciples believe that these names reveal simple moral qualities, deceiving their victims. Amorifier is a demon with a red cap, tall in stature and a round face. Each of these demons is terribly perverse. In the Catholic religion, the layperson also receives a new name, following the practices of black magicians. As in today's world, all religious sects have fallen under the dominion of black magic. Adopting apocryphal names is characteristic of black magic schools. In the White Lodge, the disciple is made aware of the name of their higher self, their inner self, the name by which they have been known throughout eternity and in all karmic books. For example, Gautama the Buddha is known as Amitabha in the inner worlds. Krumheller is called Wirakacha, etc. If we open chapter 19 of the Apocalypse, we see that the saint of the Revelation calls the writer of the Apocalypse the Word of God. God is represented by the monosyllable on, and the 2 V's in the word verbo form a double V, which can be written as W. With the vowels E and O, plus the letter R, we form the name Weor. Completing the name of the divine self of the author, on Weor. I came into the world to fulfill a great mission of worldwide significance. All Western men have read the Bible and know that the writer of the Apocalypse will come, the writer described in chapter 19 of the Apocalypse, but I came, and they did not recognize me. On the contrary, the spiritual leaders will rage against me, as the world does not want to deal with the prophets of light. Humanity has always killed the prophets, and humanity does not like the enlightened ones, humanity only likes fools. Humanity crucified Christ and set Barabbas free. Boxers receive applause because they know how to throw punches, that's humanity. Returning to the topic of our chapter, in authentic Gnostic white initiation, the disciple does not have to choose a name, nor is a random name given to them. Instead, they receive the name of their inner self, their true being, the name by which they are recorded in the karmic book throughout the ages. Before entering the true white initiation, the disciple must receive esoteric instructions in the preparation room. All of this is in the astral plane, this is not on the physical plane. Let us now hear how the initiation of the black magicians of the Amorc begins, also on the astral plane. I am now asked to walk behind a large golden screen, and there, two officials put a loose blue robe on me, then they place a fine yellow or golden veil on my head and a cross of ebony in my hand, upon which there is a red rose. Then an official comes to me and announces that he is my guide. He wears a black robe and a black hood, takes me by the right arm, and turns me so that I am ready to come out from behind the screen and back into the chamber or temple. Then a set of bells begins to ring their notes that seem to announce my arrival, and we enter the temple arm in arm and separate at the center in the back. The disciple's guide wears a black robe and a black hood, so he is an authentic black magician, because among the masters of the White Lodge, no master wears a black hood. Zanoni wears a black robe and a black mantle of distinction but not a black hood. The black hood is only worn by black magicians. Having reached the back of the temple again, I am led to the center of the temple, and an official places a large cross on my head while I kneel, and 3 bells ring somewhere else in the temple. Then from the east of the temple, a master in a purple robe approaches me, carrying a large Egyptian cross adorned with precious stones, and he holds it over my head instead of the other cross, while some officials stand near me and say, "Under the cross of immortality and eternal life, blessed are you." In the halls of authentic Gnostic initiation, no master ever wears a purple or red robe, these colors are only worn by the leaders of the Black Lodge. In the white initiation, a large and heavy wooden cross is placed on the disciple's shoulders, which signifies that the disciple has begun the Via Crucis of the 9 arches. The weight of the cross varies greatly, it depends on each individual's karma. Sometimes the disciple cannot bear the weight of the cross, and then the Cyrenian has to help him. The vowels EU help the disciple to be able to carry the cross when it is very heavy. The cross on the shoulders is white magic, the cross on the head is black magic. Christ did not carry the cross on his head, but on his shoulders. The cross symbolizes matter, and carrying it on the head means resolving to live under matter, under the world. The black magician says under the cross of immortality and eternal life, blessed are you. The white magician says, I am upon the cross. The cross on the head is worn by the pontiffs in their mitres. No white magician wears the cross on the head, but on the shoulders, just as the divine Redeemer showed. We Gnostics are not under the cross, but on it. The Gnostic has to bite a certain figurine in the first initiation, and before entering it, has already received the authentic lost word that has never been written. The verbal exams are very rigorous to receive the initiation. The black magician cares little about morality. Once the Kila triumphantly passes the white initiation, a celebration is held for them. In the black ceremony, the disciple receives teachings from a black magician dressed in yellow, which they use to make themselves and others invisible. In the next chapter titled Nirvana, we will talk about this in detail. As we have already mentioned, all these teachings come from Atlantis. In Atlantis, men also used sexual forces to cause great harm. Orhawarpa would create monsters with his mind and then materialize them physically and feed them with blood. He would release these monsters upon his helpless victims when he wished. Atlantean humanity was clairvoyant and skillfully manipulated cosmic forces. At that time, there was a very important sanctuary called the Sanctuary of Vulcan. The guardians of these sanctuaries kept Ahriman and his legions under control so that they could not act freely on our planet. These atoms of Ahriman damaged human clairvoyance, and humanity became enslaved to the illusion of the physical world. However, in Atlantis, there was a great college of initiates, and when evildoers tried to harm them, they were killed by the sword of justice. The lords of Mercury gave man the mind to think, not to use for destructive purposes. Seeing that the people worshipped him as a god, Or-Huarpa assembled a powerful army and marched against Talon, the city of the 7 solid gold gates, where the white magician of Atlantis ruled. Clad in steel with shield, helmet, and sword, he fought during the day, and at night, he unleashed his beasts and his sorceresses who, in the form of wolves, harmed his enemies. And so, he took Talon, the city of the 7 solid gold gates, and became the emperor of all Atlantis, establishing the cult of the Dark Sun. This is how things stood when Master Moria reincarnated, gathered his army of soldiers, and marched against Or-Huarpa. Or-Huarpa unleashed his ferocious beasts against Master Moria, which the Master dissolved with his luminous powers. With the edge of his sword, the Master took Talon, the city of the 7 solid gold gates, and all of Or-Huarpa's soldiers fell under the blade of the forces of light. Realizing he was defeated, Or-Huarpa locked himself in a tower and there died, for Master Moria's soldiers set fire to the tower. But that was not the end of it. Or-Huarpa immediately reincarnated and, once he came of age, gathered his army of warriors and sorcerers once again and marched against Talon. He did not take the city and established a throne against throne. Then the 4 thrones told the White Emperor Noenra, "No, leave this land and go to the Gobi desert wherever there is dry land because God is going to sink this land." Noenra obeyed and left with all his people to the Gobi desert. The people of Noenra were the primitive Semitic tribes who had followed the path of white magic, and Or-Huarpa became the master of Atlantis. Some time after the departure of the Israelites, dangerous fiery manifestations began to appear. The use of sexual forces for black magic activated the dormant volcanoes. Sexual forces have an intimate connection with all the forces of nature because sexual energy is not only in our sexual organs but in all our cells and even more so in every atom of the cosmos. Sexual energy is the cause of electricity. It is logical, then, that the dormant volcanoes would have been activated by induction. These volcanoes and the black magicians were closely linked through sexual energy. The sinking of Atlantis with all its black magicians into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean was caused by major earthquakes. All the Indian tribes in America are remnants of the Atlanteans. These tribes retain many black magic practices from the Atlanteans. In America, there are those who make wax dolls and bury them with pins to stimulate the imagination and focus the mind on the victim. Some use sexual forces for destructive purposes. All of this originates from Atlantis. The Arahuaco Indians of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta burned down an entire village called Daibaya using the fire elementals they call animes. In the small town of Santa Cruz de Mora, in the state of Merida, I met a humble elderly woman who performed wonders with the nature elementals. When she was young, she married an Indian man who took her into the jungle. She told stories about the tribe, claiming that during the day, the Indians would leave their settlement, and at night, they would return, appearing as animals, but once inside their huts, they would assume their human form. One day, her husband bid her farewell, saying he was going into the jungle to die, as these Indians would retreat to the jungle to pass away, and he gave her an amulet, saying, "I leave you this keepsake to ask for what you need when the time comes." The elderly woman in Santa Cruz performed wonders. She would ask the amulet for what she desired, and money, wine, jewelry, spirits, perfumes, and more would appear as if by magic. Those who had been robbed only needed to consult her, and she would ask the amulet for the stolen object, and it would arrive, seemingly brought by invisible hands, allowing each person to recover their lost belongings. These wonders ended for the elderly woman when she had the weakness to confess to a priest, who took away the marvelous talisman. This is not at all fantastic or unusual, it is simply done with the nature elementals. The work of Mr. Francisco Hartman titled The Elementals extensively covers these matters. All this knowledge comes from Atlantis. Elementals can be used for both good and evil. The Atlanteans used the elementals for evil purposes. All the knowledge of the Amorc school in San Jose, California, comes from the black magic of the Atlanteans.